I am here at the museum in Washington with Erskine-Bowles and former Senator Alan Simpson. Thanks to both of you for being here. Busy morning. A lot going on in the world, including Erskine-Bowles, the release this morning of a new plan that you all have outlined to reduce the nation's deficit over the long term. Let me ask you, why are you still at this, and what's different about this new plan?
Peter, we're at it because it's so important. Just like everybody else, you know, Al and I have got our minds on what's going on in Boston right now. But over the long term, we really do have to focus again on what we're going to do about the fact that the fiscal path the nation's on is simply not sustainable. And what we're trying to do is to get people to refocus on it. We've tried to bring out some new recommendations that are updated for what's happened over the last 3 years, and try to push both of the political parties out of their comfort zone and try to get them to make some of the tough decisions we have to make in order for America to have the kind of balance sheet we need to have in order to prosper in the future.
What was your phrase that we've done?
We've done the easy stuff. You know, we've capped discretionary spending. You know, we've raised taxes on rich people. We've done the stupid stuff. You know, we've done the sequester. Now we got to do the hard stuff.
And before I get into some of the specifics on what your plan is included in that plan, Senator Simpson, you're still trying to light a fire under Democrats and Republicans. What makes you think that you're any more closer to a grand bargain today than you were even just a few months ago, a few years ago?
This thing is like a stink bomb in a garden party. It will be a template now or in the future. Whenever the stuff hits the fan, they're going to say, what do we do now? And there's only one way to go. You can't tax your way out of this baby. You can't cut spending your way out of this baby. And you can't grow your way out of this baby. And I hope the young people in America will start paying attention to the fact we're not doing it for the old folks at home. We're doing it for them. It's not about 10 years. You can do 10-year plans all day long, and it's like Al Greenspan said, you never saw one that ever came out right. I never did either. I was there for 18 years. Well, next year the growth rate will be so-and-so, and Republicans will win the Senate, and the Democrats. Nothing ever came out. You can't you go 20 or 30 years out where you know what's going to happen, and the reason you know is because the trustees of Medicare and Social Security are telling you exactly, because, you know, every day 10,000 people turn 65. Wake up.
Erskine, let's talk about some of the specifics. $2.5 trillion in deficit reduction over the next 10 years. That's the new target in your updated proposal here. You've got revenue, about $740 billion. By my tallies, I look at it, about $1.7 trillion in spending. Why those numbers? You've got less revenue, for example, than what President Obama has been talking about in his budget.
We do have less revenue than what President Obama has in his budget. We have about $1 trillion more in spending cuts and about $300 billion less in revenue. It's about 21% revenue and 79% spending cuts. What we wanted to do was to get enough cuts in order to stabilize the debt at some level below 70%, and then make sure that we keep it, as Al said, keep it on a downward path as a percent of the economy, so we can actually structurally fix the long-term problems that are affecting the country.
You're going to have a lot of Democrats, again, look at this and suggest that since you all first came out with your plan in December of 2010, that you've moved to the right here, that it's going to be harder for them to support this kind of proposal.
Well, actually, what we tried to do is move more to the middle. But principally what we did is we took what the President and the Speaker had agreed to in their discussions in December. And if they had implemented that, that would have been an enormous step forward. But we tried to look at that, build on that, and make sure we got it to a level that it really would stabilize the debt, and then keep it. And again, the key word is to keep it. If you look at what the President has proposed, and by the way, I give him, as Al does, great accolades for doing some really tough stuff in his current budget. I mean, I think he can really be proud of some of the steps he's taken. I think it makes getting a deal done much more likely. So I'm very hopeful because of what he's done. But if you look at the overall recommendations he's made, it's not enough to stabilize the debt at a rate below 70%. It does stabilize the debt at around 73%, but the big problem is it doesn't stay there. It begins to rise again in the out years, and the problems come back. What we want to do is really solve the problem.
And we've been savage from the beginning. There isn't anything new to us. When we turned this baby in December of 2010, read the report. It said, we will be savaged by every interest group in America, and boy, oh boy, it's been fun. If there's anybody we haven't done it to before, please let us know so that we can contact
They might
that
let
group.
you know after this.
And then we can give them the order of the green weenie too.
How are you going to get Republicans to buy into this concept again? Because you've got Republicans still on the Hill saying absolutely no more revenue. We gave in the fiscal cliff deal.
Peter, what I do is say, why don't you realize that you're an American citizen first and drop your party label and get off your butt and do something patriotic instead of pandering? That's what I tell them. Forget the party. They're irrelevant in this situation. Unless you're an American citizen doing something for your country, not figuring out how you can get reelected, how you can protect your party, how the right on your party is giving you the business and the left on your party is giving it. Forget it. Get in the game. Be an American. Be a citizen.
Yeah, I think there are things that both Republicans and Democrats will find they like in this plan. I think the Republicans will like the fact that we do reform the tax code to broaden the base and simplify the code. They'd rather that it be revenue neutral. But again, if you look at the available capital, we're only taking about 5% of the available capital and putting it in deficit reduction. I think the second thing they'll like is when they look at the fact that we've looked at Medicare and we've made the tough decisions. We've mean tested it.
You call for raising the eligibility age.
We have cost sharing in there. We do raise the eligibility age. But when you look at what we did there, I think the Democrats will like the fact that we do have revenue. And secondly, in each one of those things I just named, we have put in the appropriate safeguards for low-income protections to protect for truly vulnerable. And I think the Democrats will find that is something they really think is good. And again, what we try to do is to do it smart.
And Senator Simpson, how much time are we talking about here for Congress, the administration to reach a deal? Because we've been talking about this for a long time. Doesn't seem to be anything that actually pushes them to the point to cut that grand bargain that you all have been pursuing. Why do you think this is still a possibility now when it seems like we still have gridlock on the budget?
I have no idea when it will happen. I made the beautiful babble once that it would be a couple of years before the tipping point came. Dick Durbin kept asking, where's the tipping point? All I can tell you is that we owe somebody out there about 16.7 trillion bucks, which will be 20 trillion bucks in 10 years, and those little somebodies are going to say someday, I'm going to not give the date anymore, are going to say, we know one thing, you're addicted to debt, and your Congress is dysfunctional, and we love you, but we want more money for our money, and interest rates will go up, and inflation will kick in, and the guy that gets the order of the green weenie is the little guy. What a fakery you're doing. Everybody talks about the little guy, the most vulnerable. Who the hell do you think gets clobbered when inflation goes up and interest rates go up? Guy's trying to take his kid to community college and he was borrowing at 2% and now it goes to 6%. And the guy that gets it, because the money guys will always take care of themselves. What a fake, what a sad and terrible irony to inflict on the middle class, the so-called little guy.
I think this is the last best chance to get a grand bargain. I really do. I think
people say we've heard this before.
Look, we had a magic moment, at the end of last year during the lame duck. I think it was an enormous missed opportunity. They were close. Now we're approaching the time. We'll have the debt ceiling will expire on May 28th. I think Jack Lew will be able to extend the debt ceiling and keep us out of default by taking some extraordinary measures probably to the end of July. But I think between now and then, that's our last chance to get this thing done and done right outside of a crisis. And, the last thing you want to do is address something like this in a crisis. So what we're trying to do is to bring the two sides together, to get them to put the ultra-partisanship aside, pull together rather than pull apart, and make these really tough decisions. And the tough decisions are going to be revenue, they're going to be real structural reform in health care, and in a parallel process to do something to make Social Security sustainably solvent.
There have been plans put forward, not only the president's budget, but you had Paul Ryan pass a new budget in the House. You had Patty Murray pass a budget for the Senate, Democrats in the Senate. Got a lot of plans out there. How does this plan change things? And to some extent, are you worried it could be a distraction for the regular order of Congress?
I gave up worrying about this. Let me tell you, the Murray plan and the Ryan plan are created to give gas, ulcers, and heartburn to the other side. They have no other function. Those plans are, what do you love over there, and we'll take it away from you, and what do you love over there, and we'll get that out. So They're nice people. I know them both, but the purpose, go look at them. No, you're going to pass one in one house and it doesn't have a prayer in the other.
All the political pain is in the other party's priorities in both of those budgets.
And we're trying to thread through the middle somehow like a meandering monad in the midst of the great green grass.
I do think the president's budget really puts forward some real seeds of hope that we can get something done. It's got the change CPI in there, which is a more accurate gauge of inflation, but the big part about it is it will take a big step forward in making Social Security sustainably solvent. It's got about $400 billion of Medicare cuts, but the big news is some of those cuts are on the beneficiary side, which you don't ever see from Democrats. And lastly, he does reform a corporate tax rate. So again, those will help us get a deal done.
All right, Erskine-Bowles, Alan Simpson, thanks to both of you. You're going to be here at the museum to present this plan in more detail here, Betty, over the next hour or so. But we're going to send it back to you in New York, and obviously a very busy news morning. And our thanks to Erskine-Bowles and Alan Simpson.